Okay, hold on a second. Oh my god, this episode was so freaking epic! All right. We let out our epic episode screeches. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so, I'll tell you what. I don't talk about every One Piece episode that comes out, but whenever I do, it's usually directed by Megumi Ishitani. Can we please get this woman an award? I don't know how it works in Japan. I'm sure there's like an award ceremony for like animation and like direction and stuff like that. But can we give her an award, please? Because like every episode she's directed so far in One Piece, which I think this is only the third one, has just been mind-blowingly awesome. Okay? She's incredible, right? Now, of course, the animators and everybody else that are part of the episode as well, those are a big deal. In fact, I was looking at all the episodes that she directed, and the first one she did was episode 957. That was the one where we had the break in between Wano, and we go over to see what's up with the Marines, and they're talking about the warlord system being abolished and everything like that. So that was directed by Megumi Ishitani, and the animation was done by Eisaku Inoue and Kimitaka Ito. And I think Kimitaka Ito, yeah, was also an animator for this episode, one of the lead animators for this episode as well, episode 1015, alongside Keisuke Mori. Okay, so a lot of people were involved in this, but like all three of these episodes, episode 957, episode 982, which was the kickoff of Onigashima, the battle, that was the episode where we had the presented by Onigashima Queen's like epic music video. Megumi Ishitani directed that. And then we have episode 1015, adapting chapter 1000 from the manga, Straw Hat Luffy, the man who will become the Pirate King. By the way, spoilers. Like, I'm just saying that right now. Come on, Oda. You spoiled the end of the story for us in, like, the first chapter of the story. Come on now. Oh my god, this episode is so amazing. So, a lot of people have been calling this one the greatest episode of One Piece up until now, which is a pretty bold statement to make, you know what I mean? Because, like, you know, 1015 episodes of the series, there's been a lot of really good ones, okay? Now, am I saying that the episodes, like, the standard for what makes a good episode has changed since Megumi Ishitani directed some of them? Well, yes, I am, actually, because look, there's different styles of animation throughout the entire run of One Piece, and that's actually quite amazing, because if you go back to, like, the early episodes in the 90s, the animation was very different from what it was in 2005 to what it was in 2010, 2015, and now 2022, you know what I mean? You can look at One Piece as sort of a timeline of different animation styles over 2 decades in progress, so that's pretty impressive in and of itself, but it's not just about the animation that makes a good episode, all right? There's also the music. There's also just not exactly the animation, but the way it's animated, because given the fact that animation gives you so much freedom in order to depict your medium, you can do it a right way and you can do it a wrong way. You can make it in a way that's so abstract it sort of detracts from, you know, the message, the plot that they're trying to get across. So there's like a perfect balance you have to find, and the way that this episode is animated, I think, finds that balance perfectly. Does that make any sense? I don't know if it does, but let me know down below in the comments if you consider this to be the best episode ever. I might even put a poll up on Twitter or on my, like, the community tab or something, so pay attention to that. But I gotta say, it's in the running. I have seen every episode of One Piece. I might have skipped a few during the Long Ring Long Land arc, but, you know, I've seen every episode of the story, and there's a lot of really good ones, a lot of really good animated ones, but the thing I think I like the best about these kind of episodes, the ones that were directed by Megumi, is that the way that it's conveyed, like, you'll have a simple scene in the manga that you could just animate normally. You could, like, the perfect example is the way that Yamato finds out about what Luffy said when he wants to become king of the pirates and what she read in Odin's journal, okay? So that's a scene that we've talked about here before. The scene when Odin, Whitebeard, and Roger were discussing, you know, what's going to happen when Roger finally, you know, finds the last island. He says, well, you know, then I will. and he trails off, and we don't get to hear what he said. But Whitebeard and Odin's reaction to that was like, that's ridiculous, that's childish, but they're also amused by it, The same thing happened with Luffy, Ace, and Sabo when they were growing up on Fuchsia Village, or outside of Fuchsia Village, on the Goa Kingdom, right? Luffy said, I'm going to be king of the pirates, Kaizoku Oni, Orowanar, and then I will ... So the way you could have had this animated was the same way that it was in the manga, where it wasn't really all elaborate or anything. Ace gets wicked drunk while he's, hanging out with Yamato, and then he says, what Luffy said to Yamato. Keep in mind, it gets a little confusing because we as the audience, we as the watchers of the anime or the readers of the manga don't know what Roger and Luffy said, all right? So we got to do like the ... sort of shit. But Ace gets drunk and says it to Yamato, what Luffy told him, okay? And then Yamato realizes it's the same thing that Odin wrote down in the logbook that Roger said. So it could be just a simple one-to-one animation where that's all it is. Ace and Yamato sitting around the fire talking about this. But no, the way it is animated is beautiful. It is a huge revelation that Yamato has where she pictures herself on the cliff there alongside Whitebeard, Odin, Ace, and Sabo, and then she looks over and she sees Roger there, and then Luffy jumps in front of Roger, and they say it at the same time, and then Yamato, there's birds behind her that fly away, and she's like, oh, I've realized what it means, this is incredible. I don't know, just the way that's conveyed, it's very artistic, but it did not seem pretentious. It didn't seem like, okay, you're going overboard with this. I think it conveyed the right amount of drama and urgency to let the audience know that what Roger and Luffy both said are the same thing, and that's extraordinarily relevant, okay? I think it was conveyed in the perfect way. It was conveyed in the way that Yamato, who reads Odin's logbook like her Bible, as she called it, realized, wait a second, you're saying, Ace, your brother said the exact same thing as the king of the pirates, and Odin was blown away by that. That's incredible, right? So it's like she has this epiphany. All right, it's great. And all of the scenes with Yamato and Ace are awesome. In this episode, Yamato is what's the best way for me to describe it? Totes adorbs, because she is. Another thing, though, this episode does amazingly well is match cutting and transition. So a match cut would be for example, if I'm hanging out here in this exact position, and I do this, and then all of a sudden, match cut. Boom, now I'm holding a straw hat, okay? Now that was really poor, that wasn't lined up exactly, but you get the general impression of what a match cut is. It's one scene, and then without changing the perspective or the layout, the scene shifts, okay? So the way that this is utilized, there was the scene where it's extended a little bit here in the anime, where Ace actually leaves Onigashima. Okay, and so Yamato makes a Vivre card from Ace's hair and then gives him the full, card, and then she takes part of it, okay? So they'll always, know what's going on, and, Yamato might be reunited with Ace someday as she originally intended, okay? So Ace gets on the striker, and he sails away into the sunrise as the sun is beginning to rise over the horizon of Onigashima, this frozen mountain. Yamato runs up on the mountain in the snow and is like, Ace, I'll see you again! And Ace is there's this really cool scene where he's he turns the striker around, it's animated beautifully, and he's smiling, yeah, we'll see you again, right? And there's one scene where Yamato raises up her arm and we can see the shackles, the handcuffs still on her wrist, and as it's bathed in the sunrise, and that's preventing her from leaving the island. And then there's this scene of overwhelming hope, though. Yamato just met this amazing person, Porcus D. Ace, and told her all these stories about the outside world and about Luffy, and they talked about Odin, and they had a good time, and they drank a lot, whatever. And he's sailing away, and it's okay, Yamato has to stay on the island right now, but maybe someday, Ace also told her, oh, you can't live based off what your dad wants you to do, you can break those binds, don't let him chain your heart. as he's changed your body, okay? Your heart can still be free, okay? So it gave Yamato just an overwhelming sense of hope that everything will be okay, all right? And so as Ace leaves into the sunrise, she holds up his Vivre card, and you see it bathed in the sunrise, and then match cut, baby! Bam! Immediately cuts to a darkened room illuminated by a flickering candle as we see Ace's Vivre card begin to disintegrate, as this is the day where he dies at Marineford. Holy shit. That hits hard, okay? It's like the happy music is playing in the background. Music also a big quality if you're going to consider it the greatest episode of all time, which Queen's music number during the last one, Megumi Ishitani directed, that was pretty solid too, but this one was really good. Really hopeful, happy music, and then I never saw Ace again. Match cut of depression. Oh my god. And now the scene completely pulls a 180, where Yamato rushes out of Onigashima onto the same cliff where she saw Ace depart, but now the sun is not rising, now the sun is setting, and it's bathed in this twilight of this like deep blood red color, as she's just staring out over the horizon on the cliff of Onigashima, unable to leave because of her shackles. She's crying, she's screaming, and then boom, Kaido appears. Kaido mentions, it's like, well, because red-haired interrupted me, I guess I got some free time to kill. I guess I'll go teach my idiot son a lesson, you know? So, Kaido gets up with all of his crew and just like, Yamato, time to go back home now. Give up this dream. And, Yamato shouts at her father, and then Kaido is just like, all right, well, I guess I'll just have to beat it into you until you can understand. And then they clash there, and the implication is, Yamato gets beaten down and then thrown in the jail cell or whatever for like the 30,000th time. But like the juxtapositioning and the match cutting, the transitions, the music, the animation, like all of this stuff together make like a perfect formula for this scene. It's one of those things I can't really convey properly. It's frustrating because whenever I see one of these episodes, the last two I've discussed, and it's just like, how do I properly convey this in words? I mean, I can throw you the images, but like, unless you see it animated, you just don't get the full picture, so you gotta go watch the episode. What are you doing watching me? Go watch the episode, right? So that was the first half of the episode. We got some beautiful moments between Yamato and Ace. And then later on, Kaido appearing, okay? Which, by the way, I always love that this arc of Wano in from Luffy's journey has lasted so long. It's the longest arc in One Piece, and Luffy arrived in Wano, and the whole thing with the Fire Festival and the samurai. I love that Ace's Wano arc was probably only like 20 chapters long, if that. If Ace had his own manga, his version of the Wano arc would maybe be barely 10 or 20 chapters. I love that. He goes to Wano, he learns how to make a casa hat with Tama and befriends her. There'll be a few chapters with that. And then it's like, oh, the children were kidnapped in Onigashima. And Ace is like, okay, so him and his crew go to Onigashima. It's like, yeah, Kaido's not home, sorry. And the Tobiropo aren't here, and the All-Stars aren't here. And it's like, oh, okay. And then they just hang out, Ace and Yamato just hang out. And then they leave. It'd be like a 15-chapter arc, and that's it. Ace learned how to make a straw hat. That was pretty much it, all right? Kaido just wasn't home today. I wonder how that would have worked if, Luffy went to Totland, and it's like, Big Mom just wasn't home. Crocodile just wasn't at Alabasta at the time. He was traveling somewhere else. What if Eneru already left and went to the Fairy Verth? How would these arcs have went? Okay. Some other great transitions we see in this episode. There's a scene where we have Yamato holding up the logbook to Ace, and she's talking about that. But then she lowers the logbook, and then boom, it's Momonosuke. So that was a really good transition that they did. There was another one with Law, where we see Law. We actually see the scene where Law leaves the basement and he goes to the roof, because I think that was something in the manga that was kind of glossed over, where in the manga, we see Law looking at the poneglyph in the basement, kind of wondering about the will of D and, everything involving Corazon and everything. And then the next scene, we just see him on the roof. Okay, so this scene actually shows it where Law turns around, walks away from the poneglyph, uses shambles to teleport, and it takes like a little piece of, you know how, because whenever Law uses his shambles, he's actually swapping places with another object. He's not just teleporting, he has to switch places with something else in his room, right? So he warps using shambles, and we see like a little piece of metal that he swapped out with, and it falls, hits the ground, and then it transitions to Kid and Killer running up the stairs with like all of the metal that he gathered with his electromagnetic devil fruit ability. Okay, so that was a really good transition there. And we see Zoro there flung up through the ceiling, through the hole that Kaido made. You know, Marco just throws him up there in his Phoenix form. So that was a really cool scene. And then everybody just kind of arrives at the roof. All right, and it's the lighting here is beautiful. You got like this ominous red light and yellow light appearing behind Kaido and Big Mom. Not even really sure where the logic is of this light even coming from, because this is in the middle of the night. But whatever, who cares? It's awesome, right? And so Kaido and Big Mom are there kind of clouded in smoke. Kid and Killer arrive, Law arrives, they kind of, you know, Kaido and Big Mom shit talk the members of the worst generation of like, you know, you can't even dream of finding that great treasure, you know, you are just a bunch of children here, and you're pathetic and you're brats, and there's no way that you will succeed at this, right? There's this really great scene with Killer and Kid where Killer begins to laugh, you know, because he's essentially a pleasure. He's like, fa, 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 fa. But you see like his muscles, okay? He's like all tensed up and his arms are all veiny, and he has his Punisher blades on. So he has these gauntlets with these giant blades on, and Killer is so ready for a fight. He is so ready to just shred Big Mom and Kaido. He's gripping his gauntlets so tightly. You can hear the metal like twisting and bending and churning. The gears twisting inside of these gauntlets like he's about to like break his own weapons, for as pissed off as Killer is here. Okay? Like the Foley people were on point in this episode. They really were. And then Zoro shows up. You know, it's really funny because Law warps to the roof. Law's there. And then Zoro's like, ah! And then Law's just, you know, blocks him, you know, manages to land him safely on the ground. And Killer's like, so all the Straw Hats are like this? And just like being thrown in and landing from the sky. And Zoro's just like, that wasn't my choice. I didn't decide to get thrown through the ceiling. That was the Phoenix guy. Whatever. I'm here. It doesn't matter. Now, of course, the only person that's yet to arrive at the party is Luffy. But don't worry, he does it. We have a lot of really cool scenes. Like, we see him putting on the hat. We see his scar, and then boom, finally he takes the lead. Straw Hat Luffy. I love that it's Kid and Law that are arguing about like, hey, who's gonna take down Kaido first? And, you know, it's like Kid's like, you know, I'll handle it. Law and Luffy are like, no thanks, that's not going to happen, right? But I loved how, despite how Kid and Law want to like be seen as like, you know, Luffy, you're not the main character, we're the main characters. Luffy still gets points in the arrangement. It goes Luffy, then it goes everybody else behind him. He's at the top there. I love that. It's like Luffy is there, Law and Kid are in the background, and they're just like, okay, yeah, we can't really deny, I mean, you are the main character, Luffy. What are we gonna do, right? So, of course, this is the epic scene where Luffy begins to walk toward Kaido and Big Mom, and you think, like, he's just going to attack them right out of nowhere. But no, or he's going to say something to them. But no, he just keeps walking right between both of them. He just keeps walking right past Kaido and Big Mom, and Kaido's just like, hey, Linlin, can you believe what this brat said he was going to be earlier to me? And then, you know, Big Mom is like, Mama, oh yeah, he's got quite a mouth on him. He wrecked my island, you know? And so Luffy doesn't even care, though. He doesn't give a shit. He just walks right past them, right between them. Kaido and Big Mom are like, you know, they're looking right at him. He, of course, goes up to Kinemon, and he's embracing Kinemon, and blood and tears are just spraying everywhere, right? You know, it actually kind of seems like Luffy's kind of like, you know, he picks up Kinemon, and when he picks up Kinemon, like, blood begins to just gurgle out of his body. It's like, Luffy, maybe don't touch him, maybe let him down. He's just like, Luffy picks him up like, Kinemon, are you okay? Luffy, Dodo, I'm sorry, I can't meet Odin in the afterlife now. And we have this beautiful scene. It's this scene and then a scene right after this where we see the journey and the struggle of Kinemon through Luffy's POV. Luffy has a straw hat, and is it just me, or is Luffy's straw hat, like, the brim of his straw hat is like 3 times bigger in this episode? Because it's like, this is like his regular straw hat. The brim of his hat in the episode goes out to like here. You know, it's like a really wide brim, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It looks really cool. So we see it from his perspective. So we see it kind of like this. We see the brim of his hat in the POV. So, you know, it would be something like this, kind of like, this is Luffy's POV, like, hey Luffy, how you doing? I'm Tekking. I talk about your series on the internet. I got a brick friend. You can meet him if you want, you know, something like that, okay? So we got that going on. And it's from his POV. He's remembering everything about Kinemon and like, oh, it's okay. We're going to form the alliance. We're going to beat Kaido, all that jazz. And of course, Kinemon failed and the rest of the scabbards failed. So he's like, you know, Luffy, Dono, please, can you please, like, I leave this to you. And Luffy's, of course, yes, of course you can. And we just see Kinemon begin to pass out and we see this hazy image of Luffy as finally he closes his eyes and he goes unconscious. And now the fight is on. No, wait, one more scene. One more scene where we see a transition moment through Dressrosa, Zoe, Wano. We see all these scenes that have led up till now throughout this entire saga. You know, we see the execution of Odin, and that transitions to Zoe, where they're all in the whale tree. And then that transitions to Raizo is safe. Like, the greatest moments of the scabbards. The scene at the Udon prison with Momonosuke there and everybody. Everybody's bowing down before him and stuff as their new lord and everything like that. We see all these emotional scenes as Law teleports them all down below for safekeeping. That was a really cool scene where Luffy's like, hey, Tra guy, send them down. And Law doesn't even say a word. He just and then sends them downstairs, and then Kaido's about to attack. Luffy jumps into the sky, and then we have the beautiful, gorgeously animated Gamu Gamu no Red Rock. We get a voiceover of Hyo, and Hyo is like, in the land of Wano, we call it Ryuo, and we see the paths, the flow of the dragon vein, or whatever you want to call it, flowing through Luffy, and he opens his eyes, and it turns into a giant flaming, here comes the giant flaming fist! And it's Gamu Gamu no Red Rock. Cue up the original One Piece opening instrumental version of We Are in the background. So come aboard and bring along all your hopes and dreams. Kaido gets punched in the face by a giant flaming fist. He goes down. Big Mom is like, Mama, Kaido, you got taken down? And Kaido's like, what? That kind of actually hurt. And then Luffy hits the ground, puts on his hat. He's like, I'm Monkey D. Luffy. Kaizoku Oni Orewa Nar. Let's do this. Boom. To be continued. Oh, next episode is another recap episode, which, okay, it's like, what are you doing? I'm like, you know what? I can't be mad. I can't be mad. This episode was glorious. I can't be mad. All right. This is, you know how glorious this episode is? If Loki was here right now, he would refer to this as glorious. Okay. And you know that means it's glorious. Okay. Holy shit. But yeah, next episode's a recap, but I don't even care. So, was this the greatest of all time? Animation, I would say it's really top level. It's like, it's the same level. I'll tell you what, every Megumi Ishitani episode I watch, I feel like I'm watching a compressed version of a One Piece movie. Right? Am I the only one that feels that? Because it feels with that level of gravitas, you know? The finale of this episode, where Luffy punches Kaido, feels every bit as powerful as the finale from when Luffy fought Bullet at the end of Stampede, or when he fought Shiki at the end of Strong World, or Zephyr, or whatever. Like, it's the level of drama there, with the animation, with the music, with the way it is animated, the direction of all that, the perspective, right? Everything just lines up perfectly with the movies. And so can we just, I don't know, wait, actually, do we know who is, oh yeah, we do know who's directing Film Red. That's the dude that did the Code Geass films. Yeah, it's directed by Goro Taniguchi, but after Film Red, can we get the next director for the next one? Because you have to understand also, Film Red has been in production for a while. You know, they don't just come out with movies like, it's like just last year they decided to come out with Film Red. No, Film Red has probably been in production for a couple of years at this point. But the next One Piece film number, this will be the 16th one after Film Red, can we get Megumi Ishitani to direct that, please? You know, if she's available, if she wants to do it, because that would be phenomenal, I think. Okay. But yeah, the animation was great, of course. Music was great. I think just the way the scenes transitioned and the artistic license of just like seeing Yamato there alongside Odin, Whitebeard, the thing, the birds and everything like that. The color palette, which I don't even think I mentioned yet, it was like this interesting color palette, which in one scene it would be just all green and blue because that's kind of like Yamato's hair, but then we'll also see like a red when Roger's there and then more orange when Odin is there. It's almost like the ability to like convey like this scene is about this character because of just the color palette on the screen. It's kind of, once again, difficult to explain. You just have to check it out yourself. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to say this is my favorite one. I really do. I'd have to go back and like rewatch, I guess, every single episode to get a complete understanding of that, but this was one of my favorite episodes. This is one of the most fun episodes I've had just watching, right? And then rewatching to do this video. Another thing I missed. Oh my god, this was added in. When Luffy punched Kaido so damn hard and so damn hot with Red Rock, there's a scene where you see a rock, a boulder on the roof of Onigashima. You see it looks like initially like it turns to ice and it shatters apart, but no, it turns to freaking glass. Because the heat from Red Rock was so intense, it like melted a rock and just like turned it to sand, and then the sand turned to ice, not ice, glass, and then it just shatters apart. And then you just see the glass shattering in front of like Zoro and Kid and Killer and Law, and everyone's like, you know, it's like, oh my god, that wasn't in the manga. That was a beautiful thing to add. I mean, that was great. That was amazing. This might be my favorite, right? And I understand, at the end of the day, it's a subjective thing, right? Of course. Like, we're not all going to agree. Like, every One Piece fan needs to agree this was the best one, all right? Obviously, it is subjective. It's like asking, what's the best movie ever made? You know, I'm sure there might be a lot of people that might pick the same one, but at the end of the day, you know, people would pick their own. And I think, well, that's not a great example because I think we can all unanimously agree that the best film of all time is, of course, like, I don't have to say it, right? I mean, I will, but it's National Treasure starring Nick Cage, right? Maybe National Treasure 2 Book of Secrets starring Nick Cage. Possibly also The Wicker Man starring Nick Cage. I think we can all unanimously agree that the greatest film of all time stars Nick Cage in some capacity, right? I mean, he's Nicolas Cage, for God's sake. But other than that, I mean, you can pick, you know, which Nicolas Cage movie is truly your favorite of all time, but they're kind of all the best of all time. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it works, yeah. So, yeah, let me know down below. This was a blast. I don't know when the next... Okay, Megumi Ishitani needs to direct the episodes when it gets to the current moment in the manga. I'm not going to spoil anything from the last few weeks for those that haven't read the manga that far, but chapter 1043, 44 especially, 45, can we get Megumi Ishitani to direct those? Please? Please? I don't know who decides this, you know, Toei or whatever, but please, okay? All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching this video. This was a blast. We got goat facts. Go to the intro. Here's the GOAT fact. Here's the greatest of all time fact. So Megumi Ishitani. No, okay. Just go to it. Hit it. Let's go! GOAT! 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 GOAT back! Yeah! Okay, so in today's episode, we are going to be talking about this majestic creature. This is the Damascus goat. And I kind of feel sorry for it because this goat has been given the title of the ugliest goat on the face of the planet, the ugliest creature on the face of the planet, the monster goat, and it's just like, guys, it's a goat. I mean, do you really have to be mean to the goat, calling it a monster goat? I mean, come on now, okay? So this is the Damascus goat. It's a goat that is native to Egypt, Lebanon, Cyprus, that kind of general region of the world. And it's actually a very awesome goat because the milk it produces a lot of milk, up to 11 pounds of milk per day. And also, it's just the milk is like a really high quality for that reason. They can give birth up to 4 kids at a time because kids are baby goats. So there you go, 4 kids at a time. And they're just very prized in terms of just having as farm animals, but also as like exotic pets for that reason. Newsweek called them the bulldog of goat breeds, and you can kind of see why. They have a very interesting face. So the situation with this is when they are born, they actually really don't look any different from other goats other than their ears, where their ears are like really droopy, kind of like a hound dog's or something like that. So a lot of times they will actually like cut off the ear flaps. I don't know what they're properly called. Cut off their ear flaps to make it easier for them just to, you know, eat and just handle and stuff like that. So that's why the adults' ears are like clipped. And then also when they're kids, their mouths will not curve inward like the adults do because it makes it easier for them to like you know, feed from their mother. All right, but when they get old enough, then their mouths do this weird curve thing, leading to this facial structure. I think it's really fascinating. Yeah, I don't really like it whenever they call animals like that's the ugliest animal on the face of the planet. And I guess it's all subjective once again, but like, yeah, it looks really cool the way that, you know, they developed, I suppose, I guess. The clipping off of ears, I'm not really sure about that, but yeah, it's an interesting one. So that's the Damascus goat that we're talking about today. All right, well, hope you guys enjoyed the video, everybody. This will be Tekking101 and Barry signing out. See you in the next one.